United Kingdom Chancellor Rachel Reeves has announced plans to make it easier for high-skilled foreign workers to move to Britain, contrasting with recent US visa restrictions under President Trump. Reeves revealed that the UK will double high-skilled visas to 18,000 annually, aiming to position the country as a top global hub for technology and finance. Speaking at an event, she highlighted Britain's openness to global talent, especially amid US visa turmoil. We've stressed that London's role as a financial capital demands accessibility to top professionals worldwide, signaling the UK's intent to attract skilled workers and boost economic growth. Dr Gospel Obele, economist, joins me for more on this. Hello, Doctor. Thank you for joining me today.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me. Great to speak with you again, Perpetua.
Same here. Now, first, let's get your reaction to the UK's decision to open its doors wider to global talent, especially looking at the fact that it's doubling high-skilled visas to 18,000 annually. What do you make of that?
Well, it's a preference for the Western economies because immigration has become top on the list in terms of conversation, policy drive, the rise of ideologies in terms of determining who comes first, what comes first, and as a result, many institutions globally, particularly nations, are then reprioritizing who gets access into the nation and why. So for the United Kingdom, it's been a cause to sort of attract more global talent that can be seen to productively add, value to the UK economy. And that has been sort of the interest of the current Prime Minister and the Chancellor. And that has technically taken full effect in terms of the partners, institutions that the government would like to work with to attract global talent in science, in arts, in research, and all the like. So the goal generally is to begin to think of ways to make the UK economy a lot more competitive when it comes to talent and the HQ or the attraction point for global talent.
Right. Talk to us about the impact that this will probably have on the country and, its position economically or, globally and all.
Yeah, to start with, the impact is, number one, attracting the right global talent, skilled, highly skilled personnel and workers who can contribute positively and productively to the UK economy, to its communities, to its societies, to industries, and to the overall growth of the economy. What that would technically mean is that if done rightly, it will shift the course of talent migration globally as well. I mean, maybe not necessarily shift at scale, but also influence the spread and movement of talent migration. More talented individuals on developing economies like Nigeria might find it attractive to begin to explore those opportunities, particularly those who have the evidence of work that they have done in different industries to show for. And again, more importantly, the prospect around what value they will add to the UK economy in that line of interest or that line of work, or generally from a productivity angle. So there's going to be some more, we'll use the word talent flight, just where we say capital flight. There's going to be some more talent flight. I don't want to use the word brain drain. But again, the world is literally at that position where nations are scrambling for more global competitive talent to be able to power up their competitive advantage, whether it be AI, be it climate change, be it healthcare, and the likes. And that's where we're heading now. Globally, nations are looking for more attractive talent that can contribute to the economy, and not necessarily begin to take out of the economy, so to speak.
Well, talking about that, you talked about something which is talent flight, and I'm looking at how this might actually be the case or the reality for African nations. And, at the end of the day, maybe we just have more remittances. Don't you think, do you think this is really good for Africa? Is there a way we can sort of balance things, or do we need to continue to, let it be? It's like it's not a big deal.
Without sense of unity, I don't think Africa has a say or an influence in how this pans out, quite honestly, because to start with, Africa hasn't created the most conducive environment for its talent to fly. All right, so let's even start from the basic things. Gossip and rumors thrive more than intellectual capital, than intellectual property, and if you look at it very well, people are much more drawn to sort of a nuisance behavior than, even wanting to identify with platforms that appreciate their talent, their creative gifts and expression. Even those platforms that appreciate it do not even reward it enough. There is no system to properly reward talent. There is no system to properly appreciate the gifts and the prowess and capacity and natural capabilities of Africans to a large extent. So we've not yet created that conducive environment for talent equality, for talent reward, for access to market for talent. All right, the right people, the most talented people don't get the best of opportunities, although in many cases in the world, but significantly more in Africa. All right, so there is no merit-based system to appreciate, honor, and host talents where they naturally thrive the most, and all that. So it's a natural order for people to gravitate towards where they feel like they will be seen, where they feel like their value will be appreciated more, where they feel like they will get better reward for their talent expression and all of those things. It's natural. So in course of that natural order, when some form of incentives are then being introduced into that mix, into that natural order of things per se, it then begins to be influence that order in such a way that you have drones of talent moving to where the perceived opportunities and scale is, which technically would then be a decline for African economies, as the case may be, or other developing economies. So what would have been the case is if this right structural mix were available to empower, to retain, to scale, to reward time, but we don't have that, and it's likely a cultural, behavioral, value system issue than just a one-off immigration challenge. All right, so that's why I say I don't think that Africa has anything can influence any of this order, as the case may be. So that's what we're looking at, and if we're unable to pen down those productivity drivers, from a time perspective, the economy cannot grow. We keep talking about GDP, 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 GDP. The truth is, the GDP, the capital flow, the wealth of a nation is largely hinged on the productivity of that economy. And the productivity of that economy, if you look at it on the productivity strand, is largely very dependent on the talent base of that economy. So if you have the right education, if you have the right machineries, if you have the right industry reforms, and you don't have the talent to drive the base of how those reforms are steering economic productivity, then you've lost out on the equation. So it's a big worry and a big concern for developing economies, particularly Africa.
Right. So let's get back to the conversation, really. Does this, new plan automatically notify the July 22 updated immigration rules, which sort of increased both salary and skills requirements or thresholds and limited eligible roles, predominantly for skilled worker visas?
I can't confidently say yet because it's still there's still lots of clarity points that are very, very involved. So to even start with, the global talent route has nothing to do with the skilled worker route. There are two different routes, all right? And for the global talent, it's a bit more flexible. It's a bit more, people have more options to choose from. In many cases, it's even a much more valuable use of time when you're in a new country, in a Western environment. So when it comes to that compared to the conventional skilled worker routes, there may be significant differences. There may be aligning points. But I think that as the program is being rolled out, more clarity will be unfolded. But there are two completely different things when you look at it from an immigration standpoint.
Absolutely. Now, there are whispers that the government is considering cutting costs to zero. Can you confirm that?
How do you mean cutting costs to zero?
Well, that's cutting the visa fees to zero. I mean, we saw reports saying that sources told Financial Times that.
Well, at this point, nothing is an impossible case because the truth is, globally, there's a strong competition for talent. The EU has been positioned to be very attractive positioning, emphasis on position to be very attractive to talent. China has tried to release a new flexi visa, working side by side with the fact that the US has introduced new restrictions on its H-1B visa and all that, and then you've got the UK in this whole global talent mix as well. So the truth is, it's now a war on incentives. The countries with the right most attractive incentives will get the talents the most, particularly the right talent at the global talent level. Now, we now begin to just oppose that with the fact that the incentives are trickled down to the point of visa application, the cost of application fees and all of those things. Then that could be a possibility. However, you also want to understand that those points of calls or those points of engagement or touch points are also revenue basis for some of these host nations. But then again, with the global talent, there's a conversation around there to say that the whole cost of applying and moving into the new country will be covered by the UK government. There is also that conversation. Now, it could be for some certain sectors in the science and engineering spaces and all of that, or it could be then heavy discounted for other sectors and all that, as far as you're a global talent and you can prove that. So I think that it's going to be a lot of work in progress. And but then again, there's a baseline rule here. There's a competition for global talent, and the economies, Western economies, who get a critical chunk of the right strategic fit talent the most would have an edge, because juggle that with the right policies, reforms, and ways of working can then have an edge in terms of global productivity, which again hints on global growth than anything else.
Well, from what you're saying, I guess you sort of think the UK can realistically position itself as a top alternative to the US for tech and finance talent?
Well, I think the UK can. The UK's got the ability to do that, and not just because of the one-off, because the UK there've been plans and conversation for the past 2-3 years now around the UK being a hub for global talent. Now, has the UK got many of its immigration policies, reforms, and all of those things right? Not exactly, but the intention, the political will is also there. So the dynamics around how that will go, I think, still need lots of clarity and rework to ensure that it's attracting the best people. So, for instance, there's a huge bias for people in the academia. But if you look at it very well, the significant chunk of people who contribute most to the productivity dynamics of any nation are people in the industry landscape who are talented from the industry landscape. So how do you ensure that the criteria is done in such a way that you're able to identify, trace, track, and validate evidences from industry professionals and not just academia? You get what I mean? So I think the UK still got a lot of work to do with ensuring that it's global talent laws, policies, LGBT criteria is suited heavily for the industry professionals as well, as much as it does for the bias it has for the academia. And also in terms of how you partner with institutions who give the endorsements and all that, ensuring that they're not just academic institutions, because it's going to be then difficult for an academia to vet the prospects and the validities, as the case may be, for an industry talent. You get what I mean? So there's going to be a lot of alignment and reworking to ensure that it is consistently positioned to be ready to evaluate and take and identify the right talent. As I kept using the word, if the UK gets it right in terms of the right talent, and the right talent that would fit in terms of the market structure. For instance, now, you can't just bring a university professor from Nigeria to come and work in some sectors. Even if the professor is a professor in that area of work, it doesn't necessarily mean that he's capable of doing work as a senior level professional in that sector. So there's a lot of dynamics to the conversation that I believe the UK still needs to get right. But if the UK gets it right, it can be a significant frontier for change and productivity.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Gospel Obele, economist, for sharing your thoughts with us on Business Edge today.
Thank you very much for having me.